Welcome back, everyone. It's Scott and Jennifer, and today our topic is going to be around slides. We call this slide bursts.
Yep. It sounds so exciting.
It is exciting.
I think it is.
Because we can thoughtfully design and create slides that keep our audiences engaged throughout the entire presentation. This is good news.
Right. And I guess, part of it is it sounds exciting. The other thing is it's different. Because what you just described, keeping our audience engaged throughout a presentation, what that does not mean, what that shouldn't mean is having a slide up the whole time.
Well, Scott, I love this topic because this is going to push our audience to think differently around slides. And this can take them out of their comfort zone, which is always a good thing because that means we're trying something new.
Yeah.
It's change. Yeah. We need to do something different with slides. Slides, for the most part, are just horrendous.
Totally.
The whole experience.
Yes. Slides have ruined things.
Horrible.
Gosh. But it's not the slides that ruin things. It's how we use them. It's the tool.
Slides can be amazing and beautiful and supportive to the message.
We should be okay with standing and talking like human beings with other people without some glowing box.
Okay, let me ask. I agree. I love presenting without slides.
Yeah.
Love it. However, we do have visual learners in our audience. They need something visual to see in order to process what they're learning.
Well, I politely disagree in a way.
Of course you do. Don't be polite. That's boring.
Okay. Jen, you are wrong, man.
Tell me how.
All right. Well, I don't think it's that we have visual learners and there's people who aren't visual learners, or we have auditory learners and then there's people who aren't, and we have kinesthetic learners.
You don't believe that?
We're all of those. We're all visual, we're all auditory, and we're all kinesthetic, and we all are these strange mixes where for some of us we're much more kinesthetic and some of us are much more.
We align more with one.
But I think we all benefit from a good visual, whether you're a visual learner or not. This goes back to my teaching days where I was taught, we have to understand the learning styles of our students and individualize learning. And I'm like, are you crazy? I have 30 students in this class. I'm not going to teach to 30 different individuals. So what I did is I created a curriculum where it was visual at times, it was auditory at times.
That's the deal, Scott. That's the deal. We have to flex our style to tie in the four main learning styles.
Yeah. And that
that's my point. So if we have no visuals, that could be a hang up for some people in the audience.
Well, it could be. I think it's partially content related. Let's talk about when is it appropriate if we try to release the traditional rule, which it's not a rule per se, but the expectation that you always have slides. A presentation is slides. Slides must be there for it to be a presentation. They're essential. I want to blow that up. Okay, let's pretend that doesn't exist.
Okay.
If that doesn't exist, and we've said slides are good, when do you use them? And I think I've alluded to this same concept before. It's a little formula that says, when you have a visual aid where showing the visual aid is of such great value, it helps the audience both understand and remember an idea where it'd be really difficult to do so without the visual aid. That's a great thing, right? That's a real positive. But I always say that even the best visuals have a negative to them too. And that is they take the attention away from everything that the speaker is doing.
Yes, it is a barrier between the presenter and their audience.
Right.
For sure.
So there are times where you go, okay, this is such a valuable visual aid. my learners, whether they're visual or not, are going to have a hard time getting this concept without seeing it. And you go, okay, I'll craft a really good slide burst to help get this idea across.
Okay.
But what's cool?
You got to tell us what slide.
Yeah.
We got to hear slide burst then.
So a slide burst is, what really defines it is, a slide burst is during a presentation, slides are there and then they're not.
Gone.
Yes. If in the virtual realm, it means you don't screen share the whole time. You don't go, okay, let's get into my presentation, click screen share. And then there's this slide thing dominating the screen. You're a tiny box. That does not fit our brain.
Mm-hmm.
But a slide burst says, okay, now I've got this valuable visual aid I want to show you. It could be one slide. I call it a burst because often it is a series of builds, either within a slide or transitions through a couple of slides, but
Yes.
they all usually help get one idea across. That's part of the definition of the slide burst. But the important part is you don't have screen sharing on the whole time. Or if you're in person, you don't have a slide displayed the whole time. It would be a black slide.
Okay. So if it's over video,
Yeah.
the presentation, you would stop screen sharing. So now there's no barrier between you and your audience.
Yep.
Your video box is bigger. They can
Yes.
see more of you.
Yep.
And then if it's in person, an in-person presentation, you create a solid black slide
Yep.
in between other slides
Yep.
as an indicator of, I want all of your attention on me.
Yeah.
And now let's have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back and tell a quick story about where it sort of started for me. I didn't know it, but I was at Duarte, which was, I worked at Duarte for 6 years. It's the global leader in presentation design and development. Here I am among some of the most talented artists in the field. And then we had a guest speaker and he came to a staff meeting and presented that way. It was mostly black slide most of the time. And then he would bring up something and suddenly a burst of visual stuff would come up to help explain an idea, to show a few photos maybe of something. And then it would go right back to a black screen. And then all that disappeared and this wonderful presenter stepped forward and you just looked at that person and connected.
And it's unique. It's something different.
Yeah.
And I really believe that's what audiences are craving. They want a different experience.
Yeah. When
they're attending presentations, because for some folks, they're attending back-to-back presentations all day long.
Yeah. Well, and there's this weird conflict. When I got into speaker coaching, I'm coaching all these people. I'm learning to coach them in their facial expressions and hand gestures and all this visual stuff. And they put all this practice into it. And then they're in a habit of putting up a slide so nobody looks at them. And I'm thinking, why is it we work so hard? Why don't we just stop working on hand gestures and facial expressions? Just forget that stuff, because you're drawing so much of your audience's attention to the slide. Just do that. Be a better slide designer. Let's just
that is why slide burst is going to be challenging for a lot of people. Yes. Because they want their slide to hide them.
Yeah. And it's a cultural norm. People kind of freak out. They freak out when you're in an organization where multiple people sort of handle the same slide decks and things like that. When you go away from the safe mainstream approach to things, it can freak some people out. I occasionally have some very ornery clients when I'm training folks in slide bursts, because others go, what? You've got to have these dense slides up with all the words, because that tells the person what to say. I have to.
Scott, that's why I'm a huge believer in taking baby steps toward it.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're doing an in-person presentation, instead of having multiple black slides in between your slides, try one.
Yeah.
Try two at the most, and just get a feel for it and pay attention to how your audience responds.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't feel too threatening and too big of a leap.
Yeah.
I love the baby steps.
Yeah. Well, and start with it. I mean, that's a good one. And when I mean start with it, when normally you would put your slide up right from the start, or even as people walk in, or you could have a walk-in slide, but go to a black slide for the introduction. Stand up and introduce yourself and
love it.
Go through that and connect. Maybe that's the baby step that you need.
Yeah. But, so Scott, what's cool about this is within Gutsy Presenter, there is a slide burst workshop.
Yes.
Because this is a very detailed topic, and people need to be walked through it, and the opportunity to create and practice with an expert.
Yeah. It is hard to get your mind around until you've done it, until you've seen it.
Oh,
yes. Kind of touched it. You have to not only understand some basic design principles that include, you don't shove a lot of words on the slide. It isn't densely crowded with and cluttered with stuff. You also have to get used to this idea. Oh, how does it that you go from a black screen to this back to a black, like, what does that look and feel like? So there's a workshop in Gutsy Presenter, and it's
live
awesome.
Too. It's a live workshop.
It's awesome. Gutsy Presenter. And I hope some of you in the listening audience come in and check it out. You get a 2-week free trial, so you can always go in and poke around and see if you like it.
You get us for free for 2 weeks.
I know. That's what's crazy.
How can you not want that?
Come on. What value? All right. We're gushing about ourselves. We have to stop. All right, everybody. Have a great week.
Later.